All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Ignite. Oh, look at that. Excellent. Thank you very much. As opposed to Donna Sarker at the keynote, I'm Australian, so I don't need that much enthusiasm to get the session going. Thanks very much for coming along today. I hope this is going to be a really interesting session for you. Setting up a TV station. Historically, that's a very big project. That's millions of dollars, months if not years, complex commercials, licensing rights, all sorts of things to get a TV station off the ground. Enter cloud computing. It's pretty easy now. We can get a TV station up and running, as you'll see in this session, hopefully within 60 minutes. Now, you might have dreams of starting your own TV station and a broadcasting network, or you might not. You might be a member of a meetup group and thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could broadcast the meetup to the people that can't make it here in person? Or maybe you work at an organisation and the CEO wants to address the troops, but the troops are scattered in all sorts of different locations and they want to use a TV-style broadcasting mechanism to talk to people. Or maybe you work for an organisation that has lots of customers and those customers are distributed all around the world and you'd like to get a video message out to those customers. All of those scenarios are really easy to do now and I'll show you how we can do them. I'll be showing you a live broadcasting scenario. It's a little bit of a meta session. We're going to be doing a session about broadcasting this session. So it's only going to be a little bit of the session we actually end up broadcasting, but that's the scenario that we're going to walk through, setting up a live broadcast of this very session right now. And hopefully, network gods being with us, you'll all be able to go onto your phone, or your PC or whatever, and actually log on and see the session happening. Of course, you could just look at me, but it's kind of neat. You can look at me on your device. So without any further ado, let's get cracking because there is a fair bit that we need to get through. So I'm not going to bore you to death with slides today. I have one, this one, and all the rest will be actually showing you how this thing is put together. But this is the basic architecture of what we're going to be looking at today. So you can see down in the bottom, we've got a camera. The camera I'm going to be using today is just the one on my laptop. So pretty easy to get going with whatever equipment that you have. The better the camera that you have, the better the resulting video is going to be. So you can invest whatever you want in the camera. But I'm just going to be using my laptop and the built-in facilities that we've got. So you can start as simple as that. So that is, of course, being my laptop camera. It's connected to my laptop. I'm going to be connecting the laptop to Azure Media Services. Azure Media Services is an Azure offering that we have for manipulating video, for ingesting live streams of video, for uploading pre-recorded video, just any video file, for transcoding the video, changing it from one format into another, for encoding the video at different bit rates. So for example, taking a very high definition video file and splitting it out into multiple different bit rates from that very high definition right through to a low definition that could be streamed maybe to a phone on a patchy network. It has intelligence services built into it for doing things such as converting the video spoken word to text files, for analysing the video and finding what type of images are being presented in this video. Are there famous people's faces in the video? Are there not so famous people's faces in the video? Facial recognition, lots of different intelligent analytics that we can put over the top of the video within media services. A lot of those intelligent analytics all come from the cognitive services APIs that we've released. So media services is kind of the heart of this presentation, if you will. Azure Storage is going to be used to store the video stream that we capture. One of the things with the live feed in media services is it automatically converts the live feed to a video on demand file. So as soon as the event is finished, anybody can just go onto your site or wherever you're showing the video and see a replay of that video that was just live streamed. I'll also be putting together a little website and putting a player into that website connected up to GitHub. I'm just going to host my code in a GitHub repository. So we'll see, right through to the finished product that somebody can have a look at. I am also going to be using a site which houses what we call the Azure Media Player. One of the challenges with playing video is just that, actually playing the video on a device. Historically, you need to think about what device am I on, what formats does this device support, what streaming formats does it support, etc. The Azure Media Player takes a lot of that complexity away for you. It's a free player. We don't charge separately for it. And it allows you to dump that onto a website, and then it will figure out, okay, what browser am I being rendered in today? What platform am I on? And it will just connect and start playing the video. So we'll make use of the Azure Media Player within this demo. But let's get started. So I'll switch over to number 6 and have a look at my Azure environment. Now, you can see I've been doing some testing, so my burn rate's been going up a little bit, so I hope my boss doesn't pick me up on that. I doubt it. But let's start by creating a new Azure Media Services account. So starting right from scratch. So here's Media Services down here. Of course, you can search for it if it's not in your recently used list. And I'm going to call this Ignite New Zealand TV. All right, that's not taken, which is good. I'll create a new resource group to host this, and I'll call it Ignite New Zealand TV 1. And I'll place that in Australia East. And Azure Media Services always needs that partner Azure Storage account because really can't do much with media services without some video files. So storage is critical to the way that Azure Media Services works. So let's call this Ignite NZTV. Hopefully that's still there. Yep, excellent. Click OK, and we'll create our Media Services account. So pretty straightforward, really just giving it a name, putting it into a resource group, and attaching a storage account, which you can use an existing one. I'm provisioning a brand new one. Provisioning an Azure Media Services account does take a minute or so. So hopefully that's provisioning away there, and we should see that created very shortly. I do have one pre-provisioned, which is what we'll use to begin with, and then I'll swap over to the other one when it's finished provisioning. The reason I'm going to do that, when you create a live channel within Azure Media Services, to start the channel takes about 20 minutes, which is normally fine for most activities that you have a 20-minute leeway to get a live broadcast up and running is not a big issue. When you've only got 60 minutes to do a demo, it starts to become a little bit of an issue. But I'll kick off the creation process of that channel, and we may be able to swap to it by the time before we get to the end of the session. All right, so in a Media Services account, you see a few things. Some of the standard information, of course. Good, my new one's actually provisioned, so let me go to the new one rather than the pre-provisioned one. Let's go to the resource groups, find my Ignite NZTV1, and there's my new Media Services account and my new storage account. So in this, let's have a look at some of the things that are available. I'm going to go straight to the live streaming piece. I'll come back and explain some of the others in a moment, but just to kick off that 20-minute process, I'll go straight to it and get it happening. With the live streaming process, we have this asset called a live channel. A channel is effectively an ingest point for the live video stream. So this is the point that we'll connect the stream from the PC to. It then can do some interesting things on that live stream and then broadcast it on. We can set up multiple channels if we want to set up multiple simultaneous live streams of different things. We can do that as well. But for this particular example, I just need just the one. So let's go ahead and create a channel. We fill out a few details about what we want the channel to be. I've got the choice between a live encoding channel and a pass-through channel. I'm going to select live encoding. The difference here, a pass-through channel just takes the incoming video stream and basically passes it straight on through to any streaming endpoints that are going to be streaming that video to your viewers. It doesn't really do much with the stream on the way. A live encoding channel, on the other hand, gets the incoming video stream and then on the fly creates a whole bunch of different bitrate streams for that video. And then passes that on to the streaming endpoints. The nice thing about this is we can just send one high quality source stream from the PC, then Media Services, the live channel, will then encode that into lots of different bit rates, pass it on, and if somebody on the end has the patchy network, well, they'll get one of the lower bit rate streams, and it will adaptively go up and down to the better bit rate streams on the fly as the video is being played. So let's go with a live encoding channel, and let's just call it channel 1. Okay. I can set some properties around ingest, like I can restrict the IP address of the incoming stream. So for security reasons, I might want to limit the IP address to my known one. I can also select from a couple of different streaming protocols. I'm just going to use RTMP in this example. Click OK. We have a preview. When the stream comes into the channel, we can preview what the channel is seeing directly, and we can set, again, an IP restriction on that, so you can only see the preview from a particular IP address. Again, I'm not going to worry about that. And then finally, because this is a live encoding channel, it wants to know what bit rates do you want me to encode for you on the fly. Through the portal at the moment, we just have the one option, which is a 720p based set of about 8 different bit rates. So 720p at the high end, and then progressively lower bit rates. And there's about 7 or 8 of them. You can come up with your own specifications if you really want to. For a lot of circumstances, this is perfectly fine. But if you want to come up with something particular, you can. It's just a more involved process than simply using the portal. Okay, so we'll go ahead and create that channel. This is now going to create. It'll take about a minute or 2 to create it, and then it'll take about 20 minutes to start it. But that process is kicked off now and going to be created. The other thing I'm going to do is go down to the streaming endpoints. This is the other critical piece for this particular scenario. A streaming endpoint, also sometimes referred to as an origin server, is the point that all of our video players are going to connect to get the stream. So the channel is going to accept the stream in from the source. It's then going to pass that stream to the streaming endpoint, and the endpoint is then going to serve it to all of the different clients that might want to view that video stream. So I have one streaming endpoint. You can have multiple streaming endpoints depending on what size of audience you think you're going to be reaching. You can also scale up. So I'm going to scale up to 1 streaming unit. The more streaming units you have, the more expensive it is, of course. And you can scale up to 10 streaming units, which is a lot. Each streaming unit will send out about 200 megabits per second, which for 720p might be somewhere, well, it starts to depend on whether you're using a CDN, but typically even our very large instances rarely scale more than 4 or 5 units on the streaming endpoint. So we can support very large scale deployments here, indeed. All right, so we'll just scale up to 1, that should be fine. To give you a sense of the type of scale that we can go to, we used Azure Media Services as we have for the last several Olympics, for the last Olympic Games. NBC in the US, NBC Sports, used Azure Media Services to stream the Olympic Games to all NBC viewers across the US. It was used in a bunch of other countries as well, and that was high definition video streaming to millions of viewers, and it worked extremely well, which was great. But we can go up to that sort of level if you want. But of course, if you have your site set a little bit more modestly, well, that's fine as well. The live encoding channel is around about $7 an hour. So it's not a huge expense to broadcast an hour's worth of live video. Great, so that's the streaming endpoint set up. There are a couple of other bits and pieces to the Media Services account that gets created here. The other major one that we're going to use is what we call assets, which are essentially video files. So I can take a video file, I can upload it to Media Services and store that as an asset. I can then transcode it, I can stream it out to viewers. Essentially, I can use it as just a video streaming. So if you're not interested in the live broadcasting scenario, but you have some videos that you would like to have streamed within an app or a website that you're working on, you can very easily do that as well by just uploading the videos that you want streamed into here. They'll be there as assets, and then you can have your viewers looking at that accordingly. Bunch of other things, content protection, we can do encryption, the analytics, as I mentioned before, etc. But those 3 assets of the live streaming channel, the streaming endpoint, and the asset or the file storage, they're really the 3 things that we're going to be using in this scenario today. Great, so that's it. I've set up my Media Services account. I've set up my channel. I've set up my streaming endpoint. Now, because that's going to take another 10 or 15 minutes to provision, I do have an existing one that I've pre-provisioned here that I'm going to look to get set up before the other one gets provisioned. So let's have a look down here at live streaming. So all I've done with this account is exactly what you just saw. It's just that it's had a little bit of time to start up. So it's currently in the running state, and you can see I've got an ingest URL. So this is the URL that I can send my video stream to for Media Services to pick it up and start processing it. So let me copy that URL, and now I'm going to open up a piece of software called Open Broadcaster software. So I need a piece of software that is going to connect to the video camera on my laptop and send the stream to Azure Media Services via RMTP. So I'm using Open Broadcast software to do that. It's an open source tool that you can download, start using, and have some fun with it. There is a new version of it coming out as well. This is the older version, which is a little more stable than the new project. But similarly, there are a whole bunch of other options that you can use here. There's also an SDK that we provide. So if you want to write your own piece of code to connect to a camera and send the RTMP stream, we provide an SDK for you to build your own piece of software at this point that does this for you. We've also built a app using that SDK for Windows Mobile. So for those happy users of a Windows phone, I count myself one of them, there's an app in the store where you can connect it up to Media Services and happily broadcast directly from your phone. So with Open Broadcaster software, I need to go into broadcast settings and set the URL of the server that I'm going to send the video stream to. So I'll paste in my ingest URL, and I'll start streaming. So there we go. There's our video stream being captured from the camera. If I go back to my channel now, I should be able to start watching this coming through via that preview feature that I mentioned before. So we have a preview URL here, or just in the portal I can hit the More button and hit Watch Preview. Now, we will probably see an error to begin with, because there is a delay while the stream gets set up and starts getting processed by Azure Media Services. So normally it takes about a minute for the stream to be established, Media Services to start buffering, start doing some of the encoding and so forth that it's doing, and allow me to preview what's going on. So it could be up to a minute or so for that to happen. So let me just let me go split screen here for a moment. So we've been broadcasting for a touch over a minute now. So hopefully if I go to More and Watch Preview, theoretically we should be able to see it at this point. There we go. So there's our video stream coming through from Open Broadcast software on the right, and then the preview stream that we're watching on the left. You do see that there is a bit of a lag. Normally that buffered delay is around 45 seconds or so. So between the live action, if you will, and what people are going to be seeing on the other end. Which again, for most scenarios is perfectly fine. Unless you're setting up maybe a betting scenario where you're accepting last second bets on the outcome. Not a good idea on this. But for most other circumstances, it works perfectly well. So that's great. Now, one of the things that a lot of the pieces of software have that I'm using Open Broadcaster software for here is some production capabilities. So you need to think a little bit like a TV director. What do you want to show at any particular point in time? How do you want to start? How do you want to stop your video feed? So I'm going to put an in-roll image on saying the show will start soon. My preview's timed out, but that should be fine. And I've got just a static image going at the moment, rather than the camera saying the show will start soon. So if anybody logs on and starts to watch before the actual start time, they'll just get a nice placeholder image, and that allows us to, call action, hit the button, and start the show. All right. So now that we do want to actually start the show, let's go to our live event and set up what we call a program. So we have our channel, it's accepting the broadcast in. Azure Media Services gives us this concept of a program. A program is a time period within that live stream, which is an actual show or a program. So it goes for a particular length of time, and you can start it, you can stop it. You can also set up an archive window. So I'll call this Build a TV Station as my program. The resulting asset will be a video on demand file that anybody can watch after the event, and that gets given that name there. I have this thing called an archive window. When the stream is being played and the asset is being created, somebody can pause the live stream and then start playing it again. And Azure Media Services will maintain an archive buffer for those viewers to be able to pause the live stream and restart it whenever they feel like it. So I'm going to have an 8-hour buffer window here, which is way more than I need, but that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to put encryption on, but there's a variety of encryption standards that we support, and I'm just going to click OK. So this is now creating the live event and is going to start streaming. Live event has been created, that's going to start up. I'm just going to watch the preview again, just to make sure that we have our show will start soon coming through, which we don't. Okay, what I'm just going to do is stop streaming for a moment, and I'm going to actually stop that live event and reset the channel. There may be, if with media services, when you reset a channel, which is what I did just before we started, and then leave it too long before you start the live broadcast, it can sometimes get out of sync. So it needs to be reset again, which looks like that may have happened. Let me just try and preview it once more. Okay, we're back up and live. It could also, or we're not. Interesting. It could also be flaky network, which is it's always interesting trying to do a live broadcast streaming at a Microsoft event when the network generally is getting hammered by lots of people using the network at once. Let me just try the preview once more and we'll see how it's going. I'm going to stop it and just reset the channel quickly before we keep on going on. So I'll just stop the live event and I'll reset that just to give it the best chance of working. All right, so that's going to stop the live event. We'll then reset the channel and we'll continue on. Incidentally, again with Open Broadcaster software, you can set up multiple cameras. So if I had multiple angles and viewpoints of the show that I wanted to broadcast at any time, I can set up those multiple camera angles and use the software to swap between each of the different camera angles that I wanted. Also, if I wanted some stock video in there, I could have some video. Maybe it's an advertisement that I want to cut to at any particular point. I can insert that in. I can have still frame images, as you saw with my "The Show Will Start Soon" placeholder image, etc., etc. There's a whole bunch of different sort of TV production capabilities, if you will, that are baked into the Open Broadcaster software. So that reset normally takes about 2 minutes, so we'll just wait for that to reset. While it is doing so, I want to show you a little bit about the Azure Media Player. So the Azure Media Player is a cross-platform player for you to use free of charge. So this AMP demo site is one that we provide for you to start to get familiar with the player and see how it works and what it can do and so forth. This is the player running here. There's a bunch of different ways you can customize the player. One of the things I get asked most frequently is, do we have to have the Azure Media Services badge in the top left-hand corner? The answer is no, you don't. There is an option to turn that off. It allows you to do things like have multiple bitrate streams, so we can see here from 1080p down to 180p is being broadcast by this particular demo that I'm looking at the moment. The options that are available there are basically set by the back-end stream, what you make available. And then, of course, you can stop, pause, play, all of the things that you would normally expect of a video player, go full screen. The really neat thing about the Azure Media Player is indicated here. So under player options, you can see this player right now is using Dash, which is the HTML5 video standard. It's using JavaScript plus the HTML5 video player because it knows it's running in Microsoft Edge and it knows that that is the recommended technology set to be using. If I opened this in Safari on a Mac, it would use different technology there that suits a Safari on a Mac. If I opened it on an Android phone, it would potentially be different again. If I opened it on Firefox, etc., etc., it basically figures out what am I running in and what's the appropriate technology set that I should use in order to get this video playing on this device, which is quite nice because normally that's a whole headache that you need to figure out. The player makes that much, much easier. So let's go back here and see how we're going. We've reset the channel, which is great. So let's start broadcasting again. The show will start soon. That'll take, again, about a minute to just sync up and start playing. And we'll get our live event or our program started again. One of the other nice things about this site is that it allows you to set up or connect to your own streams. So you can see what's going on with your own streams through the Azure Media Player. It also gives you a bunch of diagnostics on what's happening. So you can see frame rates, you can see bandwidth consumed, you can see all sorts of different statistics on what's happening with that video stream that you're watching within the player. All right, so here we go. We've been going for almost a minute, so we might be able to watch this. Let's just watch the preview. Should be up within the next few seconds. Excellent, the show will start soon. Beautiful. So we're broadcasting. Let's set up our live event again. So I'm going to call it Build a TV Station Now, just to distinguish it from the previous one. And click OK. And now we've got our program started, which will end in that video on demand asset that we can watch at any later time. All right, so that Build a TV Station Now program is starting. If we click on that to get the details, we get a streaming locator. So this is the URL that your player needs to connect to in order to watch and play the live stream. So let me copy that. Go to the Azure Media Player. And let's change from the sample URL to our URL. And there we are. So we've now got a live broadcast going, which is being played by the Azure Media Player, which could scale up to tens, hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of viewers watching my live stream. This AMP demo page is perhaps not the most exciting to be sending people to, because of course it's just a demo site. You want to send them to your own web page, which has your logos and whatever else it is that your web page has for people to watch the video too. So let's go to that next step and set up a web page of our own that people can go to, and in fact you'll be able to go to and watch this video stream. What I'm also going to do is just cut over. So let's say we're live and going now. Let me take the in-roll image off, and this really is going to be the most exciting video. I'm sure you're all going to want to watch this on video on demand for the next couple of days, but just hold off on the urge and go to some of the other sessions because they're going to be interesting as well. All right, so the show is on, and we'll see that come through in about 45 seconds or so. We should see that cut over to the live video feed. While we're waiting for that to happen, I'm going to click on the code tab here of the player, and one of the nice things here, I get a share link. So there we go. The show has begun. I'm sure it's going viral already. I can get embed code if I just want to embed the player onto a page. Or I can get the JavaScript code itself in order to embed this into my own web page using my own code. As it says, this section is just in beta, and it's intended for simple use cases, but it is as simple as, and I'll show you, as copying and pasting this into a web page, and that's all you need to do to get a simple scenario up and running. So let's go ahead and do that. I have up on GitHub, I have a repository called Ignite New Zealand TV Station. And as you'll see, all that's in it is my in-roll image and my end-roll image in a README file. So it's pretty empty at the moment. Let me open up my local copy of that. Here it is. So there we go, my end-roll, in-roll, and my README. Let's open that folder in Visual Studio Code to create our web page that we're going to distribute this via. Do I mind taking a quick feedback survey? Maybe not right now. Let's create a new page and let's call it default.html. Excellent, so we've got a default.html page now. Let's simply, oops, wrong one. Let's get our code. So we copy that into the heading or the head section of our HTML page. All right, done. Copy this code into the body. So let's go ahead and do that. So all that is a couple of references to the Azure Media Player JavaScript files that are needed to actually run the player. In the body, we're just going to set up an element to actually show the player. So there we go. We'll have a look at the code in a bit more detail in a moment. And then we have a couple of parameters, things like the width and the height. That's probably a little challenging to see, but things like width, height, whether we want the video to autoplay, etc. Those sorts of parameters are all we have in the JavaScript file. So let's just do that with an inline script. And just to keep things simple. All right. So I've just copied and pasted that directly from the Azure Media Player demo page. So what have I got? Up the top, I've just got a Up the top, I've just got a couple of references to the Azure Media Player JavaScript, which is provided by Microsoft. I've then got just a video tag as the placeholder for the Azure Media Player element itself. And then I've got just a short piece of script which sets up a couple of options for my video, including, if we look down the bottom, we've got the SRC or source, which is the URL of my streaming endpoint back in Media Services. So that's it. Let's go ahead and save that. And now that's saved, let's go to GitHub and check that in. So created default.html, hit the tick to commit that change, and now let's synchronize so that my HTML gets synchronized back up to my GitHub repository. The reason why I'm doing that is I'm about to set up a website using Azure App Service. And one of the really nice features that I love about Azure App Service is I can just connect it to a GitHub repository and it pulls down whatever code is there, builds it if appropriate, and starts running it in a website. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. In fact, what I might do, just to make sure that hopefully everybody's still following on, I'll just paint a picture for what I've done so far. So far I have, where's my mouse? Here it is. I've set up my camera with my OBS, Open Broadcaster software. I've connected that live stream to my Media Services channel, sitting in my Media Services account. I've set up a program, which is going to be a timed slice, if you will, of that live stream, which actually is the show. That is then going to save that program to my Azure Storage account. And I've set up a little, I've shown you the Azure Media Player demo site connected against that live stream. And now we're going to set up the website connected to that GitHub repository to display the player for everybody to see. So in order to do that, let's go back to the portal. Let's just hit that, it'll be much faster. In fact, I didn't need to do that at all. I should have just pressed plus. And let's create an Azure web app to host my little HTML page. Let's go down here and say a new web app. Let's call it Ignite NZTV. Lovely. Let's put it into an existing resource group. Let's call it Ignite NZTV1, which is the one that I just created. How many people are familiar with Azure Web Apps and App Service? A quick show of hands. Okay, only a couple, so I'll maybe slow down this bit and just explain a little bit more what I'm doing. I'm creating a web app, which is another Azure service to host websites. It can host just HTML pages, which is what I'm going to be using, but it can also host ASP.NET, Java, PHP, Node.js, a whole bunch of different languages can be hosted, as can a whole bunch of different content management systems or CMSs. So if you have a website that uses WordPress or Drupal or Joomla or .NET Nuke, or there's a whole raft of them, they can all be hosted and run within this Azure Web App environment as well. So I'm going to create a new web app to host my little website here. The web app runs within the context of what we call an app service plan. The plan is essentially what I pay for. I pay for an app service plan, and then I can run essentially as many websites within that plan as I want, and I'll just pay for the plan. So I'll create a new plan and call it Ignite NZTV. I'll provision this plan in Australia East, and I have a bunch of different pricing points. If I say view all, you'll see that I have everything from free, and that is free. There's no time limit on it. You can provision a free plan and run, I think off the top of my head, up to 10 web apps in a free plan. Not a lot of resources, mind you, given to those websites, so you're not going to be running a nationally popular website on the free plan at all. But if you're doing some dev test and you just want a web server to host some stuff while you're doing that, or you've just got a little site that just has a little traffic every now and again, well, you can create a free plan and put up to 10 websites in it. And if that's not enough, you can create another plan and put another 10 free websites in it as well. I'm just going to select a standard, which has a little bit more processing power than the lower plans. There's also a premium plan with a whole bunch of enterprise features on it as well. I have a session, actually, little advertisement for my session tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, looking at microservices and APIs in the Azure platform from a developer perspective. I'll be going through App Service in a bit more detail then, so if you're interested, please feel free to come along to that session. Okay, so there's my new plan. Excellent. So I'm going to create my new web app, Ignite NZTV, on a new plan, and I'll hit create. This will just take a few seconds. It's normally about 20 or 30 seconds to provision that new web app for me, or that new website, and then I'll have basically a web server running in the cloud that I can deploy my code to. Nice thing also about web apps is I don't need to worry about virtual machines. I don't need to worry about operating systems. I don't even have to worry about web servers. I just create this web app, and it's all configured and managed for me as a service. It's patched, upgraded, it's highly available. If the VM underpinning my web app goes down, I won't even know. The service just keeps running and fails me over to something else, all without my knowledge. Great, so that's been provisioned now. So let me bring up my list of web apps here. There's my Ignite New Zealand TV web app. And as I said before, one of my favorite features of web apps is that I can go to deployment options here. Because my code is hosted in GitHub, I can just wire this web app up to GitHub and have it pull down that code for me. So let's go and choose our source for the project, and that's GitHub. You can see there's a bunch of other source code repositories that we support as well, from Visual Studio Team Services, right through to the likes of Dropbox and OneDrive. So I'm going to select GitHub. I've already authenticated against GitHub, otherwise it would have challenged me there. I've got a bunch of projects to choose from, so I'll select my Ignite New Zealand TV station project. The master branch is fine and click OK. That's now going to wire up my website to GitHub, pull down my HTML page, and start rendering it to any requests that come along. That'll just take a couple of seconds to pull that down. It's probably setting up the deployment source right now. All right, that's successfully set up. So let's have a look at that blade again. We call these pages blades. So it's wired up to GitHub. It's pulling down my the latest check-in code. You can see there, created default.html. That was my last check-in. So it's bringing that down. It's building it, and that should be available in just a couple of seconds. If I go back to Overview and hit Browse, I'm preempting it a little bit. But if I hit Browse, by the time I actually get there, it probably will have happened. So there we go. Now I have a web page broadcasting my session live. If you all want to try it, now is the time. We can see if we can flood this network and bring it to its knees. But pull out your phones, pull out your laptops, whatever it might be, and go to this URL at the top here, ignitenzdtv.azurewebsites.net. So I'll just leave that zoomed so you can see it, ignitenzdtv.azurewebsites.net. And it shouldn't matter whether you're on iOS, whether you're on Android, whether you're on Windows, it should just work. In all of my testing, it just worked. So it should just work now. Let me know if anybody's got it. I'm hearing a couple of audio bits. Yep, excellent. So there we go. Video is streaming. Anybody that wants to watch it can watch it, and away we go. So in the space of, what was that, 30-something minutes? No, 47 minutes, I think. We've got a live TV station up and broadcasting this very event. So now that the most exciting video you've ever watched is out in the world on the interwebs, let's close it down. So we've got it going there. Let's do thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Set up the end roll, the credits. You know, you could have that little stock video that rolls your credits if you wanted to at this point. I suppose I could have set up a little video that had director Nick Ward, producer Nick Ward, blah, 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 but yeah, I'm not going to do that. So in about 40 seconds, we should see this. Just incidentally, you can see I can pause it here. I can go back to watch something else that was happening. So that's going back to earlier. I hit the little live button and I get back up with the live action, which should go to thanks for watching in any moment. So I've gracefully ended my program. So let's go back here then to my media services account. And we'll stop the program.
So could you tell how many people were watching?
Yeah, the Azure Media Player has a whole bunch of statistics that it provides. So the question was, can you tell how many people were watching? The Azure Media Player itself maintains a whole bunch of statistics on things like how many people were watching, how long they watched for, those sorts of things. So if you're using the Azure Media Player, then yes, you can figure that out. It will work with a lot of other players as well. There are third-party players on the market that you can use. You can also build your own. If you want to, we also provide an SDK for building your own as well. So there are a whole bunch of options, but the Azure Media Player certainly makes it very easy for a lot of different circumstances. So let me go back to my live streaming channel. There it is, channel 1 is running. My Build a TV station program is running. We've got the little off-air button there, or we can just go ahead and hit stop, and it tells me the live archive will be converted to video on demand, or VOD. So we'll stop that event, and then we'll go back and see the VOD asset that's been created. Just while that's happening, are there any other questions? Yeah.
Because you set the option to cache for 8 hours, does that mean it's still available? Shut it down, that's it.
Yeah, so once you stop the event, it gets converted to a video on demand file, which essentially is the cache for the entire program. And so I'll show you in a moment how you can watch that and navigate around it and so forth. So sorry, the question was, now that I've stopped the program, is that 8-hour cache still available? Essentially, yes and no. No, I don't think the cache is there, but yes, the VOD asset is there, which is the entire program essentially cached, and anybody can watch any part of it. So let's go ahead and look at that. So if we just refresh this page, then we've got the show will start soon, and we're right back at the start. We can see that the video goes for 18 minutes, 26 seconds, and I can fast forward to any point. And what you can notice here is that this is streaming, as opposed to progressive download. So if this was progressive download, you'd have to wait for everything to be buffered before you could jump around in the video. But this is a full proper streaming solution that's been created here. So I can jump to any point in the video and just start playing, from that point, and it'll play for me. As you can see here as well, I've got 720p all the way down to 192p. So I've got that's the standard. When I set up the live channel, you may remember there was a preset called 720p, which is basically what all of those options that are available to me here are. So that's what that preset created for me. If I go back to my channel now and go to assets, we'll actually see that that asset is Channel 1 Build a TV Station Now. It's 1.26 gig. So these files get pretty big pretty quickly based on the quality of the video that you're sending through. I will admit the video that I was streaming off my PC was actually pretty low. The reason I did that was because I don't trust the network here to do much more than that, but there's no reason why you can't send a 720p video stream directly to Azure Media Services, or even higher, as long as you've got the bandwidth that's going to meet what you need. The other thing that's kind of nice is you saw that all I did was hit refresh, and I'm watching the video on demand asset. There's nothing more that needs to be done. It just works. The URL that you access for the live stream is the same as the URL you access for the VOD asset. So with no work whatsoever, it converts it to video on demand, and your audience can watch that at their leisure. So if I swap back to have a look at where we are for just a moment, so we've pretty much reach the end of the scenario. So we have a web app that was watching the live stream from the camera. It's now been converted into a video on demand asset that anybody can watch at any time. And so now the last thing to do is simply to go to my resource group of Ignite New Zealand TV. And this is my pre-provisioned one. So I'm just going to just delete that. Hit delete. Fill out the little survey. The reason why I'm doing this, of course, is just to save money. So now that my TV program has been aired, it's been broadcast, people have watched it, I'm now just going to delete it so I don't get charged anything more for it. If I wanted to keep it but just turn off the live channel, I could do that as well. And then I'm not paying for the live channel anymore, but my VOD asset stays around and stays accessible for anybody that wants to view it at any point from that time on. So either way, you can do that. And let me go to my TV1. So you should see the TV1 resource group was the one I created. If I go to there's my web app that I provisioned and the media services account that I provisioned. Seems to be a lag at the moment, which is a little weird. But if I go down here, we should see, if I go to live streaming, that we have the live channel running. It should have started about half an hour ago or so, and we could have used that. So this account, now that I provisioned right at the start of the session, is in exactly the same state as the one that I pre-provisioned. Just so you're wondering if there was any extra steps that I went through or whatever to get it running. There really wasn't. It was just to make sure that I could fit the demonstration together within the 60-minute time that I had while explaining it as well. So I'll go back here to that resource group and I'll hit delete as well. That was the one I just provisioned. Ignite NZTV1, delete, and then in a minute or so I'll be back to where I started with nothing. And I will have been charged somewhere around $5 probably for the privilege of broadcasting my TV to the audience that was watching the session anyway, which is a bit of an odd scenario, but hey, it worked. Any questions on what I went through? Yes?
With the video on demand file remaining, how's the charges work?
So with the video on demand file that is there, how do the charges work? To just have the file sitting there, it's just Azure storage costs. So it's, what is that? I think somewhere around 7 or 8 cents per gigabyte per month, give or take, depending on a couple of options. So it doesn't cost a lot to have that video file just sit there for forever and a day. If you want to stream it and have people streaming it with adaptive bitrate streaming and so forth, then you do need, sorry, the question was what are the costs of associated with the VOD asset now that it's just sitting there. If I go to the pricing details, there is a charge for streaming the video, which is detailed here, which you can see is about $5.70 a day. Sorry, that's in Australian dollars, so let me convert that over to New Zealand dollars. So about $6.70 a day to have the full streaming capability on top of that VOD asset. So that's what you would be up for if you wanted to just have it remaining. Plus traffic, thank you very much. Yes, so there is data egress in Azure, so any data leaving the Azure data center will be charged an egress rate. So that is certainly included as well, except in the event that you're using the Azure CDN, the Azure Content Distribution Network. Then you get charged for the CDN, but I don't believe you get charged for egress and CDN. The CDN charge encompasses the egress charge. If you're looking at getting to a large audience, then you definitely want to look at the CDN to help distribute the load of that live stream that's being viewed. If you don't have many viewers and they're not watching the same thing at the same time, then the CDN is not really going to give you a lot of benefit whatsoever. But for live events where you typically may have a lot of viewers watching the same event at the same time, CDN can make that a lot more scalable. I mean, you saw for this event, for this size audience, you don't really need a CDN at this sort of level.
So just clarify the CDN.
Yeah.
What was CDN?
So CDN stands for Content Distribution Network. So we have an Azure service called the Azure CDN, which is essentially a network of servers all around the world that can distribute your content. So this can be used for websites, it can distribute your images, your HTML pages, your JavaScript files, your any videos that are distributed with your website. So it gets it closer to where your viewers or your watchers are. it also works with media services so that we can have essentially an origin server out closer to our users. When you're talking about global scenarios, it becomes definitely worthwhile. But even for local scenarios, there's a bunch of points of presence for the Azure CDN here in New Zealand. So that allows you to distribute content of your websites, Azure Storage blobs, media services closer to where the viewers are. So that's what a CDN does. Yeah.
You charge as soon as you create a channel or as soon as live streaming. So if I stop streaming, do I stop, charges stop? When does the charge start and when does the charge stop?
Yeah, so the question is, when does the charge start and when does it stop? It starts as soon as you start the live channel. So at that point that I created and started the channel, I'm starting to be charged for the channel at that point. And then when I stop the channel, I stop paying for that channel. Yeah, so that's when the charges for live streaming start and stop. Also for the streaming endpoint, because I scaled that up, as I've got that scaled, I'm paying for that as I scale it. Was there another question? Sorry, I thought I'd give somebody else a... Okay, great. That was the same question. Wonderful. Well, I think we're just over time, so thank you very much for coming along to this session. I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. Thank you.